Yo, yo,
Yo, what's poppin', man?
how we doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good. Thanks for making time. I know you're a busy man.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you for asking me to do it.
Absolutely. So to welcome everybody for tuning in right now. You're with the Leedz Edutainment Podcast. A special guest, Moe Pope today, Boston's own, STL GLD, among others we're going to talk about. Man has had his hands in many different projects. Too many. I was looking them up, so many to count. I'm like, geez, I forgot how many things you've been a part of.
Yeah, man. I like to try new things, man.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently. For those, I always go back on these things and take it back to the history and stuff like that. And, you were Boston raised, right? Born in Boston, Roxbury?
Yeah, Roxbury, Academy Homes Project.
I read an interview claim that's one of the worst projects in Boston. Is that true?
That was at the time. At the time, it
Academy.
definitely was. It definitely was high up there. It was very violent. They had if you're from there, uh, dark side, light side, and the sun didn't set on a certain section of that area, and you have to walk through piss in the hallways. Is there anybody who been in situations like that understands what that's like, as a kid, so yeah, I mean, I'd say, I think it's all relative though, you know.
Cali Homes, is that Belle Biv DeVoe from there too?
New edition,
New Edition. I'm
yeah.
sorry, New
New
Edition. My bad.
New editions from OP, Orchard
OP
Park.
Ocean Park. I had it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I
But
got
they
that wrong.
live, but they were big in the community, and they went to the same boys and girls club that I went to, and
Yep.
like you would see them, they would come back and play ball and all that is those dudes legends. I wanted to be like them, you know. Even more so than RSO and even more so than
NOG.
RSO and Gangstar and Edo. I wanted to be like New Edition,
Really? So New Edition is a big influence in your music career.
Probably the biggest.
Wow.
Probably the biggest. Yeah, Michael Bivins is like my hero. Like that dude is like a straight legend to me.
Why is that?
Just because of what he accomplished at such a young age, with the groups and the fact that he was like not for nothing, and this is not to throw salt at Mike at Mike and nothing, but he was definitely he couldn't sing really, he wasn't the best singer of the bunch, and yet he stood out to me. I like when I saw them, I was like, yo, I want to be like that guy. And he just dressed flyer than everybody else. He just had a certain vibe about him that I was like, I want to be like that dude.
Yeah. He's kind of like P. Diddy in a way, almost, huh?
I'd say so in some ways.
Because he couldn't
in
sing.
some ways.
He had the business. He was the businessman too, right? Wasn't he the business? Did the business
Yeah,
side of
yeah,
things?
yeah. He was
So he was
definitely,
kind of
yeah,
like the face of
yeah,
it a little bit, The Boston P. Diddy,
absolutely.
the original.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah. That's great. I'm sure he would
That
love
just
that.
came to me right now. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm
but
sure
it
he
just
would
really
love
popped.
that, but yeah, he was a huge
But
influence.
he's
So,
before P. Diddy. He's he's
yeah.
P. Diddy's after him. You know what I mean? But so in your interviews, I read that you didn't talk much as a kid.
No,
Is that true?
no, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't talk much. I was super quiet,
Why is that?
super quiet. I still kind of am. I watch a lot, and I don't know. I think that I don't know, not to get too serious, but I think a lot of people who grew up in situations like I grew up in, and most rappers uh, grew up in the inner city and have been in traumatic situations. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Like I don't. When I was younger, I was taught to uh, kids were seen and not heard. That was a big thing. When I was younger, so I literally would just pay attention to people and watch them more than anything. And I'd say that I'm not I'm not much different today. You know, I like to sit back and watch and see how something unfolds. And when I need to speak, I make sure that it means something.
Right. It's interesting that you were someone that doesn't like to speak a lot, but yet you rap. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like you when you speak, you strike, right? Is
Oh
that
yeah.
fair to say?
Oh yeah. I also don't like to be seen much, you know, which is also strange to be on stage and all that. But I love that feeling. Like I still get like I'm probably the most nervous stepping out on stage, you know, and that's from the first time to the last time that I did recently, you know, and I still love that feeling, you know, of being afraid to go out there. Anything can happen, and but it's also frightening, you know, because you know, if you're a type of person that doesn't like to be seen or stared at or scrutinized or judged or anything like that, that I guess that ain't the place to, that ain't the place to be, you know.
Right.
But yeah,
I come across a lot of performers that, you know, 20 years later, 30 years later, still get nervous. I think
oh
it's
yeah,
something that is always going to exist in a performer, in most performers. Yeah, I think it's like it's natural to feel that way. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I mean, but I think it's strange for people to get used to it. Like there are a bunch of people just staring at you, like, and you got to do something amazing, right? Because why are they staring at you? You know,
Right.
so, and then, you know, you say you get used to it, but there's a different group of people every time. It's not the same group of people. So if you won those people over the first time that you rocked, that don't mean like shit the second time that you rock or the 20th time. They could
Right.
hate you the 20th time, you
Yeah.
know. And you know, I've been there. I've been booed. I've been booed on stage before, you know, and yeah, it's scary situation.
How old were you when you first started rapping? Taking it
Man,
serious. I should say taking it serious. I should say.
I was about 19 years old when I started taking it like serious. I stayed in the house. I had this kid radio and this kid professor, Professor Schumann,
Yeah.
and radio. I was just walking by radio one day, and he was beatboxing on the side of the road in Harvard Square for money, and he was like, "Yo, you rap, don't you?" And I go, "Nah," and he goes, "Yeah, you do. You just don't know it yet." And like, and I said, I took it serious. I went home. I went home, and I was like, I looked at him, and I was like, "Yo, you rap? You didn't even know?" Like, and yeah, I started writing probably the next day. You know,
Yeah.
the next day.
Was the first group you were in Mission?
Yeah, that was my first group. Yeah.
Talk to me about
Mm.
that group. Because this is a big group at the time. It was everybody from Mission Hill, hence the name Mission. I'm taking, or was out
No,
of Mission Hill.
no, nobody was from Mission Hill. We
Okay,
just
so
kind
nothing to
of,
do with Mission Hill.
you know, it did have something to do with Mission Hill. We all got an apartment in
Ah,
Mission Hill. We used to throw parties there, and
what
like you know,
street?
rent money. Calumet,
Yeah,
Calumet. Yeah,
everyone's lived
no,
on Calumet and
yeah.
thrown parties. I've been to like 10 parties on Calumet, man.
Absolutely, man.
Different year, every year.
We had legendary parties, man. It was like it was so fun, and and you know that's where you know you sharpen your sword a little bit because you got all the best MCs coming to your parties
Yeah,
and you freestyle and you know you got the best DJs in the city as well at the time, like spinning at your parties and they're listening to you for the first time and they're paying attention. So yeah, it was an education for sure.
what was this like 96, 98, 99, around the late 90s?
Yeah, around there, around there.
Yeah,
I did city around 96, 97. That's when I saw I was up around Mission
yeah.
Mission Hill.
Now was that a band or was it just all MCs and DJ?
It was a band. It was a band, man. Like we first started with this dude, Head Nodic, this dude out of
Yeah,
Wisconsin. He was going to Berkeley. And
yeah,
Head Nod, it was me and this dude, Rashawn Ahmad, who called himself Definite at the time. and basically me and Def we hit it off, and we battled each other at a Roots concert one day, and we were like, this would be he'll say he won the battle, but we know that's not the truth. But
Oh, shots fired.
no, no, he probably actually did beat me because I was so young and not confident at the time, and I was just learning, so it's crazy that we just hit it off so well, and this dude's from Pasadena, and Headnod was from Wisconsin. Kat, who played keys, was from Wichita, Kansas. We had Peter Alvarado was from LA, and Ev, our DJ, was from New York. So, and then we had Max McVitie from the Berkshires eventually came in. But yeah,
So
we were all spread out.
Everybody came to Boston because they went to college, I'm guessing.
Yeah, they all came to Boston for college, and then we were all from different backgrounds, all different races. Get a Puerto Rican, a Mexican, two black dudes, a Filipino woman, and yeah, it was crazy. It was a good time.
And you guys put out the album, right? One, is that am I right? That's the album, One?
Yeah, we put out that record.
And what year did that come out?
I would say 97. I think 97, 98.
Damn.
Around there. Yeah.
So that's a big move in 97, 98. Like, that's early. Like, independent scene hasn't really, like, blown up yet. So that's pretty early stage.
Actually, it was probably closer to because we were recording that stuff around that time. So it was we probably released it closer to 2000.
Oh, okay, all right. So now you're in like, then you come out in like the peak of not the peak, but the golden era of Boston, in my opinion. Hip hop, independent hip hop, independent, I should say.
Yeah, but we had skated at that time. We went to California, man.
Why?
Well, we were encountering that, like, we were doing these shows and getting all this love, but it was homies. It was like the crowd was consisting of homies, and we wanted to see if we were actually like really good. We wanted to see if we were good, and why not be in the sun for a couple of years? So yeah, that's what we did.
Where did you go in California? What part?
First, we went to Pasadena for a little bit, and the Bay. The Bay Area was home. Yeah.
Right. We talked about this before. You're out there in the early 2000s in the Bay. Is that what it is now? Right.
Yeah. Late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Again, golden era for independent hip hop overall. I call it the Renaissance era. And you're in the West Coast, which a lot of it stemmed from out of there. You know what I mean? Talk to me about you met some crazy people back then, early, before they blew up too. You were chilling with a lot of legends. Talk about some of those experiences.
Man,
it's a lot. I know.
A lot, man. There's so many people. Like
well, let me ask you this. I'll ask you about Will I Am. You met him early because he used to. I remember the story you took. Talk about the story with him.
He grew up. Rashawn and Will had a real good relationship. It's a LA scene or whatever, and we ended up, I mean, I really enjoyed Apple and Tad, so that's basically what ended up happening. Is like they were doing these Peapod things, and like we would end up rocking these Peapod shows that they had, was where they would get underground rappers in under their umbrella, the Black Eyed Peas umbrella, and there's the solid humans. We met a lot of really dope MCs during that time, really good groovers, like dancers and stuff like that. But really, that's due to Rashawn and his people, that we met those people. And then moving up to the Bay, you run into people like even Madlib, Boots from Cool. I worked at a spot called Jabba Hut, which was owned by Dwayne Wiggins from Tony, and like you would just see people all the time come in and out of there, from Michelle and Cello to like, you know, I mean, dang, name any R&B singer from that time, Raphael Sadiq, Music Soul Child, you never knew who was gonna walk through. It's just a coffee shop, you know, it's a coffee shop, and it just happened. And I worked with Keisha Cole she was a teenager, at that time. So yeah, it was a wild time.
How was she to work with?
She's the worst human, in my opinion. you know, she's like I don't play her music in my house. I have
It's
nothing.
not allowed in the house.
I have nothing positive to say about Keisha Cole, but I'm glad she exists. Yeah.
I'm glad
Rest in
she's.
peace. Rest in peace, Gab. That dude is absolutely one of the homies, and such a good influence on us back in the day as well.
Did you meet Zumbi of Zion I?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And it's crazy because I was just so intimidated by him. He's a tall dude, and he's in shape. And when I was a kid. So I was
Right.
like, Zion I was like I was a fan. So like when I met him, it was tough because I was just kind of so in awe of who he was, and he always such a good human and good spirit. And we kept in contact throughout the years, and probably got closer more after I moved back to Boston than when I was actually in the Bay. But yeah, we've done music together, and I look at his influence on like a young Boston cat coming out there, and the fact that these people embraced us and they didn't have to, you know. Yeah, solid human right there.
Yeah, that was a shame that
Rest
he
in
he
pieces.
passed.
Rest in peace, Sumi.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
shame he passed away. He was one of the best MCs I dealt with. Such a nice guy, like you said, positive spirit. His energy on stage was just great. Embraced
absolutely,
everybody. Embraced everybody.
absolutely.
No issues.
And no
Just
matter where I was, because I've been so many different places where he's at and he's rocking. If he knows I'm around, he's like, "Yo, come and rock, come and
yeah,
come and step on the stage with us." So yeah, man, I'm gonna miss him.
yeah. It's a shame what happened.
Yeah.
So so you're out there in California with the band.
Hmm.
What happens? Band breaks up. It changes its name. You leave. What happens?
You know the when you're that young and opportunities, like we had a couple of deals on the table. We met a woman named Violet Brown. If anybody who knows Wu Tang, watch the Wu Tang show or whatever, that she makes an actress makes a brief appearance as Violet Brown, and Def Jam's whole history, they would know who she is. And she basically saw us and was like, don't sign with nobody. And we waited for about a year, and then signed with a small label. And then she called literally like within weeks right after that. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was fucking heartbreaking, really
Jeez,
heartbreaking. And like for me, it took the steam out of our sales. We had these major deals and she tried to fix it too. She tried to get some money to get us out of our contract. And the guy that owned the label declined any of the offers because he felt like he could make a lot of money off of us, and he just didn't have the infrastructure to do anything. So I don't know why he thought that. But with that being said, it took the wind out of my sail. I had a child, and I was homesick, and we were all bickering. I think also the wind was out of their sails, but I was the only one that had a child at the time, and
right.
they're young in their 20s, and like I'm homesick. I was actually getting physically sick, and I needed to go home, so I went home.
And the band, and that was it for you in the band as
Oh
far as
yeah,
the group.
that was it. Yeah, that was
And they
it for
changed
sure.
their name to Crown City Rockers at that point with the deal. Is that when it happened?
Yeah, because we was already getting we was always get already getting shit from another like this heavy metal band
Ah,
Mission something, but they we were getting told we had to to change the name anyway.
right.
You know,
Huh.
yeah. So
Yeah, I remember the Crown City. Like I said, I've said this. I worked when I started promo in Boston. One of our projects for Metro Concepts was to promote the Crown City Rockers album. But I guess you weren't on that album. I'm guessing that's the one
no,
you're
I
not.
was
That's the
not.
second one, right?
I was not. I was. You know what
Earth
happens when.
Tones. I was Earth Tones in
Yeah,
2004. That was the one I was handing out in the streets, the flyers for that album.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. I wasn't on that.
Yeah.
We, you know what? You spend a lot of time with people. You get angry. You get salty, and like, you know, I had all the salt, bro. I was like, I definitely did. But that's my family, man. Like, you know, they're those dudes changed. And woman, Cat, they changed my life. You know, without them, I would never. I wouldn't be still doing it. I can tell you that much. You know, and
Yeah.
you know,
Good experience in the
yeah,
end overall.
absolutely.
So
I travel the world with them. You
yeah,
know, I can't. You can't be mad. You can't be mad at that. You know.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
So
yeah.
so time goes on. So you get back to Boston. You have a child.
Mm.
What comes what comes next? Does Project Move come next, or is it Electric? I don't know what's.
Electric company happened, and I basically, you know, Insight, who's a you know producer legend,
Yep.
was producing and was like, "What you doing?" And I was like, "I'm not doing nothing. I don't think I'm gonna rap no more." He was like, "Nah." He was like, "Yo, come." He's like, "Come chill with me and the homies," and we all just kind of hit it off, and yeah, it was like a little mini Roxbury Wu-Tang, man. Like it was nice, man. It was a fun time. But again, we only did one project, you know. We only did one. So
And who
uh
was in Electric Company?
Dagger,
Yep.
shout out to Dagger. That's the dude right there.
Yep.
Insight,
Yep.
uh Raheem, Jamal,
Yep.
and Anonymous,
Okay,
my
so
crew.
it was Project Move with Daga and Insight, basically.
Yeah, Project Move is without Dagger
Yeah.
and Inside. Yes.
Yeah. So you did one project with Electric Company that ends,
Yeah.
and then Project Move happens. You
Yeah.
guys
Because
decide.
we just kind of we had an idea of what we wanted as musicians. We just kind of gelled, you know, as the trio. It made a lot of sense for us to. We were listening to the same musics. We were spending a lot of time together. We lived together. You know, it just made sense. You know,
Right.
for many reasons to do that. And then Braun was our DJ. Braun was our DJ. You know, and producer. He produced that
Yeah.
pretty much the whole project. You know, with the exception of a couple of tracks. You know, so yeah.
So Project Move, this is when I started promoting shows,
Hmm.
and I started seeing Project Move opening up for all the big shows. Like
Yeah.
you guys opening up in the Paradise shows, a lot of the big
Mhm.
stuff, and you guys were on everything at that time. You had a what you have a you had a manager that worked for Live Nation. What did you have at the time? Because whoever you had working for
Yeah.
you,
We had nothing.
you had someone push getting you on those
I
shows.
promise you, bro. We had nothing. We would get hit up by
You had
people.
no
We
man.
had nothing. No manager. No nothing.
Well,
We had the label. We had the label, but we didn't have like we
well,
didn't really have
great
nothing.
job. Great job because you guys were on some big shows at that time, and
That's
this
what's
is
up.
for people that don't know, like this is pre-streaming era,
Yeah.
pre a lot of things. So like being on a show was really the number one way to get out there. If you didn't have that, no one was really going to hear you. There's no social media either, so it's like
Yeah.
if you're not getting on shows, you're not getting seen.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty much it. Yeah, you wasn't
so,
you either pushed it and forced the issue, or you weren't getting seen.
right.
So yeah,
And you guys, we were working parallel. And then, like I said, finally, I was able to get Project Move opening up for Slum Village at the Middle East. And,
yeah.
big fallout. The group breaks up right before they go on stage.
Oh yeah.
You don't remember? You remember that one?
Oh, I absolutely remember that. Yes,
Tell me the
yes, I
story on
do.
that one.
We're just we're brothers, and I was told that I was holding the group back, and I don't know who said it, but I do remember saying okay, and 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 when the time was for us to rock, I stood in the crowd, and I was like, all right, go ahead, you know, and that's just what it was. But like I said, again, the same thing. Like I just think being young, having egos, and not being able to, myself included, not being able to realize what it was and how great we were together,
Yeah.
But I also just wanted to say some shit on my own. So,
Yeah.
you know, we tried to hash it out again later, and you never know. We might still do that Project Move record again, but you know, we all still we keep in contact. I make sure that I don't go too long without talking to those brothers. They're super talented. Some of my favorite MCs. You know.
I'll just tell you my perspective on what happened. I'm like, Project Move. I'm like, all right, guys, we're on in 5. You guys are arguing with each other. I'm like, 10 minutes go by. Guys, you're on right now. Still arguing. And then all of a sudden, I just remember your head, you did like no emotion. You just like turned this way and went right out the door.
Yeah.
And then those
Yeah.
guys went on stage and rocked. And, I don't know who was doing whose parts at that point or whatnot, but you did have great chemistry because you get 3 high energy MCs on stage, and you guys would just play off each other and ad lib for each other. You guys had a really good live show.
Oh, Scott, so good, man. So good. Like I would say that Sight prepped us for that because we had like kind of a a set show with
Yeah,
Electric, So
right.
when we were doing the Electric shows, like Sight really taught us how to rock, how to
Yep.
rock a live show, right,
Yep.
And I'm coming from rocking with a band, so it's just a
Yep.
different entity on 2 turntables, and
Oh yeah.
that whole world is just completely different. So by the time Project Move did start, we were kind of seasoned. We knew we knew how to rock. That's because we went through the Insight,
Yep.
the blender. You know what I'm saying, for a little bit. And Edon was our DJ. The
Oh really? I didn't
legendary
know that.
Edon. Yeah, he was our
Oh
DJ for
shit.
Electric Company.
Oh, for
So
Electric Company. All right.
yeah, so yeah, it was nice. And Brahm was pretty good because he was, a lot of his first stuff was with us, so he was figuring things out as well. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was nice to just throw ideas off of him because he didn't shoot him down, because this was also his introduction to a lot of shit too,
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So Project Move ends, you
Mhm.
know, and then you finally decide to go solo, right? Like now it's like Moe Pope solo artist, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
man.
you drop, is the first album solo, Life After God? Is that the first one?
No, I did Megaphone with Hednotic, the producer for Mission, the
Okay.
my first producer. I think you always go back home when things are kind of rough, and that's like what I did. I went to the Bay and I recorded a record with him, and in 2 weeks. We did it in 2 weeks, and it was like one of the best experiences ever. Like we had such a blast doing it,
Nice.
and then I got And then I got like, I started getting like really bad anxiety, and I was like, I think I'm gonna quit music. And I met Rain. It's kind of, right when I was like, all right, I think I'm done. Like I was getting like scared being on stage, and like I was getting like panic attacks and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I've just aged out of this excitement thing of being on stage and rocking. And yeah, then I met Rain, and
Do you think
we
you
hit
get
life after that.
anxiety? Do you think you get anxiety because you were doing shows alone? Like you were used to having people on stage with you, and now you were solo. Was that maybe why? Or
Um, I think that's part of it.
yeah,
I all of a sudden I was on stage by myself.
right.
You know, and like I've had like DJs, like DJ Special Blend was my DJ
Shout out to him.
for a long time. Yeah, like such a solid dude.
Oh yeah.
Rain was my DJ for a while. As well. I've had DJs, but yeah, you're on an island by yourself. And
Right.
it's like you either triumph or you failed. Like, and the failing part, I've definitely like bombed, and it's just like it hurts your heart. So it's like, yeah, to be up there and and things not go well, and people just staring at you. That's just crazy. I don't know. And then, you know what happens with hip hop too is that people do this thing where they're like, oh, as a rapper, you have to be so many things. You have to dress right. You got to talk right. You gotta move right. You gotta uh, freestyle. I'm not the best freestyler. It's like, who says that I have to be all of these fucking things? Like, it's
Yeah.
like it's crazy. So um, yeah, it's a tough culture in music to love if you want to be in this world, because it's not forgiving a lot of the time. You know,
Right.
if you fuck up, you fuck up. And it lives forever. You know, so
Well, everybody fucks up.
that's facts.
you
That
know,
is
and,
facts. I think people forget that nowadays, though. I
no,
think people forget.
there's a lot of pressure to be perfect, and
Yeah,
and create this image of perfection, and it's an impossible standard for people to hold themselves to. And a lot of
absolutely.
people, and I've said this many times, like a lot of people think they fail because they're
Mm.
not perfect or they're not reach a level of success that they have to be huge, and they just give up and they're talented in their craft. And I hate to
Yeah,
see that. It's like, oh, I can't be
absolutely.
the best. I can't be the best, so I'm not going to do it. That's just so crazy.
Yeah,
So
but
crazy.
think about where we come from. We're coming from an era where uh, it's very testosterone fueled. You don't show your emotions. You don't show your hand. You don't.
No.
If it's your block or nobody's block, and it's like some of those things haven't changed. But what I do think is wonderful is seeing how young people don't bite their tongue for nobody nowadays, and they're speaking on things that uh, are very sensitive subjects, and these are things we bypassed during our generation, not talking about our feelings and things that really hurt us. It made us want to step onto it. Like I do believe that, like, if you rapping, for the most part, if you rapping, you've been in some traumatic situations, you've been in some horrifying situations in life, and this is our way of of healing. Well, no matter how destructive it might sound, this is our way of healing. So, um, yeah, what when you're young and you've seen somebody get shot, you've seen your friends get stabbed, you've been in brawls, you've seen your father's not there, your mother works all day, and you don't see them except for maybe an hour and a half before you go to bed, whatever. Uh, you know, and we're not talking about none of that. you know, we're not talking about none of that. We're talking about, you know, money, the violence aspect, but not how it really affects us, So,
Right.
yeah, I do think that the younger generation has got they doing that part right, in my opinion.
That's what's
So
up. So Life After God,
yeah,
great album. Slept on album.
thank you.
I listened to it the other night, and I heard it when it first came out, but I forgot how good it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very diverse production. And
Mm-hmm.
this was Rain's first project. Is this
It's Rain's first project, man.
hell of a
Yeah,
debut for him,
yeah.
production
I
wise?
had to whip him into shape.
Did you? Okay. Yeah, I can imagine you did.
Uh,
Talk to me about making this. Talk about me. Why is it? What is the meaning behind life after God? Talk about what that means.
I just think that I've been through it, and if God is a part of all things great, and all part of all things is like as my parents taught me growing up, then God also created evil and pain and horror and all of those things too. So like, I basically like, I was reading a lot during that time, and I needed a name for this record, and that definitely stuck out to me for some reason. I hadn't talked to my first band for a while. That shit hurt. At the time, I wrote about it. There's parts of that record that's about that. There's parts about heartbreak and breaking up with people that you care about, and you know trying to be a good dad when you don't really have. I didn't have a father, period. So you have no gauge on whether you're doing the shit right or not. And trying to figure all these things out. But yeah, to me, it was an appropriate title for that particular record. You know, and
Yeah.
plus, I was getting confident for the first time. I was like, I can do this like by myself. I don't need nobody. These are my words, and I needed to take it serious. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, man. That was quite the project. And then from there, you put out. Let's see. Forgive me. I gotta look it up. What was the other one there on Brick? What was the name of that one? I'm sorry, not in front of me.
Oh, the other one on Brick, that was we did Let the Right Ones In.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
was that who did production on that one?
Rain.
All again?
Yeah.
Oh
It's all
wow.
Rain. Yeah. Rain
Damn.
slept on, man. Rain is a slept on producer. And I don't think that people realize just how talented this dude really is. So we sampled all on that first record, that Life After God record. It's all samples for the most part. And so some instrumentation built in through friends and stuff like that. But he sampled that whole record. Did Let the Right Ones In. He he was hell bent on creating a sound. He wanted to create his own sound and not sample. So we didn't sample at all that whole record. So that was the beginnings of this dude not sampling. And it sounds like I listened to that particular record recently, and it's his production is just massive. It's just so good, and it's so different. And yeah, I'm just proud to have worked with him.
And this is when you kind of like, I think you start expanding out beyond the hip hop scene, right? Like around this time, you start working with other musicians, other bands. Like this one, I see Tan Vampires, Lady Lamb, the Beekeeper. These are local Boston
Mm-hmm.
rock acts, singer songwriters.
Yeah.
Julia Easterlin.
Yeah.
Obviously Bad Rabbits. Do a
Mm-hmm.
shout out
Yeah.
him.
Do it. That's what's up.
I used to work with. I used to go. I was roommates. No, I lived in the same dorm as Shield from when they were
Oh, that's
in
what's
Bad
up. Yeah.
Rabbits, but they were Eclectic Collective. Did some of the. I opened
I
up on some of
remember.
their early gigs.
Oh yeah, I remember Eclectic Collective, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Um, yeah, man. We just thought we have like a wealth of talent around us, and a
yeah.
lot of people weren't doing that. Like
Right.
just taking from the well. It's like I think Boston did for a long time was look towards New York and how they did things. You know, you get a big name rapper, you pay a little bit of money, you know, get a feature, you know, and you know, it was very, you know, following a blueprint that was laid out by the gods already, you know. And New York is obviously, you look up to New York, but like we have some of the greatest MCs, some of the greatest musicians in the world right here, you know. And I was like, I'm gonna tap into that well, and I haven't stopped doing that. I've continued to do that throughout. And it's like MCs, we always have rap with other MCs from our areas. It's very important. But crossing genres is something important to me because that's what hip hop is anyway. You know, it's taking something beautiful and making it even more beautiful, you know, within the hip hop landscape, you know. So
Right.
yeah.
And then even the transition from this, now you form Steel Gold with Archetype originally. It's just you and Archetype, correct?
Yeah.
Talk to me about how that happened. I know his side. I like to know your side.
Well, my drummer from the first band, Misson. Well, like I said, I kept in contact with most of them, and the drummer basically was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He was in a band called Big D and the Kids Table at a certain point, and we asked him to come into Misson. So, like, not for nothing, we changed his life. He was doing something completely different with the punk and ska scene, and he wanted to be in hip hop, and it changed his life. He's still doing that today. He's still doing hip hop, live hip hop music today, and you know, so at a certain point, like, you know, being in Boston for a long time, you know, I'm seeking counsel. You know, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and what lane I want to switch to, because I just can't stay doing the same thing, you know, for too long. I get antsy, or I want a new challenge, and yeah, he was like, "Yo, have you heard of this producer named Archetype?" And I was like, "Nah." I was like, "Nah," and it just by accident we ended up like being in the same room within weeks, like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and like yeah, Max McVitie's endorsement of Arc basically is that's a high endorsement in my opinion. That's like my brother, so you know, I took it serious, and I was like, yeah, we should work together. And at that point, we were mixing "Let the Right Ones In," me and Rain's record, and he ended up engineering that. He ended up engineering that record and having a song called "Glory" on that record that Arc produced on that joint, and that's the beginning. That was our first song together was from "Let the Right Ones In." The song "Glory" from that record, and it was really dope, and I just felt like we worked well together, and it was a natural transition. The dude Rain just had a child, and he was trying to chill out with the music for a little bit, and I didn't want to stop music. I wanted to keep going, so it was like perfect timing. And at this point, I'm not really trying to be produced by anybody else. Like this is my end off. Like, you know, I don't feel really comfortable with nobody else except for Art at this point.
Right.
You know, we kind of understand each other, and it just is what it is. Like, you know, it is what it is. Yeah.
No, Arc is real great to work with. Real, you know,
Yeah.
one of the best I've worked with, and hardworking man, very hardworking
Yes,
man.
he is. Yes, he is.
So Still Gold, you know, is short for Stay Gold.
Yeah.
Outsiders, Stay Gold Pony Boy, which I
Yeah.
didn't know till later. And then you took the. Why did you change the name, the letters?
Just, you know, we were just thinking too much, man. I think about that name. I'm like, damn, why don't we just call ourselves Stay Gold? Like, it just didn't make any sense. Like, you know, but you know, the name stuck, and I love it now, at this point. But we were just thinking too much. That is my favorite. That's one of my favorite movies as a kid. Outsiders. It
That's a
was
good
like
one.
tough young people, and one of the dudes was a poet. Like that's fucking dope as hell. If that ain't hip hop, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know. I
I
don't know.
talked to I did an interview with Danny Boy from House of Pain,
Yeah.
and he runs the Outsiders House Museum
Oh
now.
yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware. Yeah,
You got
I've
to get
seen
out
that.
there. You got to get out there. But yeah, he
Oh,
took
I
the whole thing
definitely
over, and
definitely do. That's my favorite film.
yeah, and it's his too, obviously. And did you ever see any? Did you
Yeah,
ever read any of the other S.E. Hinton books or
I
watch any of the
did.
other
I
movies?
did. There's another movie with Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, that was Then, This Is Now. That's actually a really
Yeah,
good one.
that is a good one. That is very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's the
just what he.
first. I read
Go
that
ahead.
book in middle school. That was Then, This Is Now, and that's what got me to. I read The Outsiders after that, and then, you know,
Yeah, and then Rumblefish.
Legendary.
Rumblefish is really good too.
Yep, Rumblefish is
Um,
really good.
I Outsiders I read as a kid. It was like almost like every kid read it in our era. I don't
Mm.
know how it is now, but I mean every kid read The Outsiders and watched the movie.
Yeah,
And
in
the movie
school.
is
Yeah,
such jam packed with those up and coming actors at the time who became like massive stars by the time we were teenagers. But I mean, I thought everyone should have read
legendary
that.
casting. Legendary casting. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
Francis
doubt.
Ford Coppola.
No doubt.
It's pretty amazing.
You know.
Pretty powerful movie. So Steel Gold is now your only thing. You said it's the end all be all. It's just this is where you are now. I mean, we've talked about it. I remember you saying I don't even want to do solo shows. It's just a group. Talk to me about your
Yeah,
relationship with
I
Chris.
have no.
Talk to me about your relationship
Oh
with Chris because
man,
you guys, Chris is he's the hype man, but he's really in the group. Not really a hype man because he's like does backup vocals and choruses and all types of stuff. Vocalist, let's
yeah,
just say that.
yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
guys have been best friends for a while, right?
Yeah, we played football against each other as kids.
What school was he?
In high school. I mean, I don't even remember, to be perfectly honest. I don't even remember. It's like
Rockland?
it's
Where
so
is
long ago. I think it was at Duxbury. I think it was at
it? Was it?
Duxbury.
Yes, I was close. I was
Yeah.
close. Big
So,
difference between those two towns, though.
but I just remember, I remembered him from that shit, and like it's a rival school, it's definitely like a big thing, Yeah, we played football against each other, and then I went to a party one day, and this dude's like pumping the keg, you know, or
Yeah,
whatever, and
I
I'm
do
like,
know.
and he's like, I'm at the thing, and he's filling up my cup, and I'm like, I know you. He's like, nah. He's like, nah, you don't know me. And I was like, yeah, I know you, bro. I was like, you spit in my helmet. Well,
Ooh,
like, yeah, yeah.
ooh.
So like, yeah, definitely remembered him. And yeah, man, we just ended up talking that night, and he like completely unrelated. He became friends with my boy Rashawn, and yeah. So I would just see him over the years, and like we just became close, man. Like, and yeah, that's my guy, man. I think that probably Chris has seen me more so than anybody. Art and Chris have, really seen me, with the exception of like, my homies that I grew up with, have seen me at my worst, and are still here, So yeah,
Gotcha.
it's just long, and vice versa,
And he comes from like a really hardcore music background. I mean, he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he loves all the hardcore music, which I've done a
yeah.
lot
Me
of those
too.
shows. You
Yeah,
like
me
that?
too.
I know you like some of it. I didn't realize how much you liked of it.
Yeah, man. I grew up. My uncles was like my uncles grew up. They were just really big black men who played hockey, and I idolized them, and listened to rock, and yeah, like hearing Bad Brains for the first time. That was my uncles, hearing, um, any like a lot of the shit, Black Flag, like if it was hard and it made you want to punch somebody, my uncles was listening to it, and I
They
love
try
this.
to get
But
hyped up.
they also listen to like Rush and like,
Etc.
very like,
'80s.
so yeah, like they listen to like some shit that like I just in where I grew up in the projects where I grew up, it exposed me to a different thing, you know. And when I was with them, that's what they listened to. So you kind of it gets
Yeah.
ingrained whether you want it to or not, So yeah,
I'm from Southern New Hampshire, and you couldn't walk into anywhere without Rush being played.
yeah,
Every convenience
yeah,
store, everywhere you go, Rush. Every car you get in the radio, Rush. Couldn't
yeah.
escape Rush.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah, I remember. I knew that you were. You listened to multi genres. I remember you at the Middle East seeing Death. I think it was a Death concert,
Yeah,
and you were
that's
like, "Yo,
fucking yo,
you were
bro.
hype. Like you were like more excited for Death than any rap show I'd seen you at." You were like, "Yo, Death, Robert Butler." I'm like, "What? Like, what the heck is going on?" Moe Pope is excited about Death. I'm like,
Oh yeah, man. That's my shit though. Rock does something different to me, but not it's not different than hip hop. It's the young people screaming. And at one point, all these old heads was young, just wanting to say what the fuck was going on in their world. And I think that that's a correlation between punk, heavy metal, and grunge and hip hop is that it was young people uh, angry, frustrated, hurt, sad, traumatized by something, you know, and not being able to cope. So yeah, it's amazing time to love music though. You know,
I'm still a big
always
rock
is.
music fan.
Oh yeah, me too.
Nowadays it's tough because the rock and alternative, it's like
It's
alternative become this gigantic umbrella that everything is thrown under. It's not like the alternative we grew up on in the '90s. It's
yeah.
just like anything, and then rock is kind of like an older thing, and it's just kind of. I just don't like the way it's kind of categorized these days.
What the thing I don't like that's really scaring me is that's frustrating to me is like, all right, there was folk music,
Yeah.
but now folk is like singer songwriter.
Yep.
I hate that. Like, and then folk, it's like Americana is like what folk is now, I guess. And I hate the term Americana because why isn't it, if that's American music, right? Peep this. Why isn't hip hop American music? That's as much Americana. So as that's American music. It's made
Yeah.
like,
Americana is
I
like
don't know.
almost like it's like almost country music. It's like rock that's almost country music in a way. Like that's kind of
Yeah,
like
it's
where
bullshit. Yeah.
Americana has become.
Yeah, but why did they get? I don't know. I just think it's fucking ridiculous. You
Yeah,
know?
it's tough. It's tricky. All I know is
Yeah.
alternative music is just the most confusing one to me at all. Like that is just so wide.
Yeah, I
Like,
just
it's
feel
like
like there should be there's as much as hip hop is like everything. It's African music. It's it's cross cultural. It's everything, which screams New York, which is what is that's the epicenter of America. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Americana is
massive,
a lame
massive
fucking.
city.
That's a lame name for anything. All you Americana listeners,
Sounds like a
that's all.
coffee.
That's all I
It's like an
think.
Americana.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you play? American music. Shut up.
yeah,
Like whatever.
yeah. I'm gonna go. Want to go back to the one quote that you said in 2014 about
Yeah.
venues wouldn't book you because you were hip hop, and they associated hip hop with violence, and it was tough for you to get gigs. Do you
Absolutely.
still feel the same way now?
No. No. There's, times change. And you know, it's a lot of these places were called out, in a lot of ways, and they changed their, new information was given, and I think that you're allowed to change your stance on anything if new information is given, and But yeah, that's what the city was for a long time. You know, when Project Move was rocking, we had a very black audience. You know, that was it, and there wasn't many venues for us to get our very black audience. You know, for us to rock to. You know, it just didn't, and so, and you know, resources. You know, at that time, you know, underground hip hoppers weren't making a lot of money. You know,
No.
to create their own shit. You know, it was just a different time. You know, and I don't think that people can understand if you're young and you're making music today. It's hard for you to even wrap your brain around what it was back then. Boston hip hop, in particular, for me coming back from the Bay, which is like a very, very black area, coming back from the Bay, and like I went to a hip hop show, and it was just I remember the first week that I came back, I went to three hip hop shows, and it was all white dudes with like Celtics jerseys, like and I was like, oh man, like every place I went to was that. Like you had to have your Celtics jersey, you had to have your Boston Red Sox hat, or you wasn't hip hop enough. Like so, and I wasn't that. I wasn't this. Like I think the first show that I had a dashiki on. The first show, like as I'm coming from the Bay, it's like I was in the sun, so and I had my locks at the time, and my first song locks, so it was just a different time, Boston has very much, um, you know, changed, and the culture of hip hop has changed, and opportunities have changed, and not for nothing, black people within hip hop uh, decided to make their own situations. Instead of waiting for or looking for a show, they made their own shows. And we make our own opportunities now. That wasn't happening like that back then. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just different. But yeah, we couldn't, how you remember, man.
I do.
you know?
I mean, I was white and they were shutting me down.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I'm
yeah,
still white. I shouldn't say was, but
yeah.
I was trying to book hip hop, and they were like, "Yeah, it's too violent," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm booking." They didn't know the difference. They just thought it categorized hip hop as all one thing,
Yeah.
and club owners they didn't know the difference between gangster rap and regular rap. You know what I mean? Or like underground rap. They didn't
Yeah, but that
understand anything.
even that shouldn't matter because it's like the 11, like you can't tell me that these punk shows there wasn't no crazy shit happening, or the rock shows. I've seen fights
No,
at
I
a
used to
folk
say that all the
concert.
time.
I've I've seen fights at a folk concert, fam. Like it just doesn't.
No.
What's that dude? What's the famous folk singer?
Bob Dylan.
James. Oh man, it's gonna
James
bother me, but
Taylor.
James Taylor. I seen a fight at a James Taylor concert. A couple of them actually, and I'm like, come on, at a James Taylor concert or whatever. But yeah, if you could, if
People, yeah, Boston in particular. Cambridge was always, like I said, I had never had an issue with the Middle East. The Middle East was always supportive of everything. Hip hop, and they're always welcome. Cambridge was much more open armed, but Boston, I mean, Harper's Ferry, before it was Bright Music Hall. I mean, that was a tough one for me for a while. I mean, they shut shows down on me. Luckily, we worked it out. I had some clubs in North Station that shut it down. I had many shows shut down just because they didn't like the way it looked, the flyer looked, you know.
yeah,
And I had legitimate shows that I would help promote with other artists, and then gang unit be showing up. That gang unit would show up to the venue and be like, "Yo, shut this down right now," And it was like,
yeah,
why? And
yeah, yeah.
some
It's ridiculous, man. Like, and that's what was going on during the time, and they would have hip hop playing in their club and say that we couldn't rock their stage, not good enough for the stage, but but still playing hip hop in the place. It's very strange. It's very strange times. But now it's become such a thing where it's unfortunate, but you know, I mean, not unfortunate. It's fortunately we didn't need them. We didn't need the venues. Create our own shit if we have to. Go to a theater if we have to. Play in the park if you have to. And that to me is the magic of hip hop. When doors shut, we find another one. You can't play an instrument, we make an instrument out of turntables. It's just how it works. In this culture. So.
Edo G told me, and you probably remember this too. He's like, there was a lot of hip hop shows in the '80s, talent shows and stuff like that. But by the time the '90s come around, done, like completely done. Like Boston is not doing hip hop until Cambridge starts doing shows later in the late '90s. But other than that, done.
Yeah, we were doing underground parties. Yeah,
you do like house parties, right?
Yeah, well, even warehouses. You remember the rave scene? Like, people catch on. You see ravers doing the shit. You're like, all right, I'm gonna do the same shit, but for hip hop. And like, house parties. Yeah, definitely house parties. Like that. That was a big part of Mission's scene when we first started. Was rocking different house parties around Massachusetts. And then you get a big show. And all those house party people are now coming to your shows, and it changed. Now, Boston was known for that for a long time.
Remember when it came back a little bit, the warehouse parties in like the late 2000s, like right before like 2010 in Alston, they were throwing all the
they were shutting it. Yeah, but they were getting shut down dumb early.
But they were throwing a lot of them though.
Yeah, we played some of those. Yeah. That's what's up.
Well, Mo, we're gonna wrap this up, man. I really appreciate the time, man.
No doubt, brother. Thank you for having me.
Great. So much history. Great working with you. Great talking with you, man. And all the best. I know you got a lot going on. Are you back in your house yet, or is that still like up in the air?
Oh man, that's like it's a whole nother nightmare, man. So I'll just skip over that.
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, best of luck in that situation.
No doubt, brother. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to thank everybody for tuning in to Leedz Edutainment Podcast. Special guest, Moe Pope. We'll talk soon, brother.
Peace.